Good morning. Today we'll discuss Wordsworth's poem composed upon Westminster Bridge. This poem is a Petrarchan sonnet which is in a way idealizing the majesty of the early industrial London city as viewed from Westminster Bridge on the maybe morning of 31st July, that is 1802, because the name of the poem is September 3, 1802. This is a sonnet and a type of poem which is written in iambic pentameter and consists of 14 lines. This is a Petrarchan variant, which is the Italian form of the sonnet, and is divided into an octet, that is 8 lines, and is followed by a sestet, that means 6 lines. So the octet typically introduces the theme of the poem, while the sestet provides a resolution. In this sonnet, the octet introduces London city's grandeur through Wordsworth's use of spectacular visual imagery, while the sestet expresses how this beauty impacts the speaker personally. So the sonnet flows and has a rhythmic effect of iambic pentameter, and it gives an elegant flow to the poem. London was in those days by no means exclusively idyllic like Wordsworth describes, with the rampant poverty, pollution, and overcrowding and city streets, but it shows the romantic part of the poet's feeling. Because being a romantic poet, however, Wordsworth romanticizes the city, choosing to capture it at its finest on a fine summer morning when its majesty dominated its imperfections. So now we'll discuss the poem with reading it line to line. Earth has not anything to show more fair. So this opening of the poem or this statement is a hyperbolic opening which is designed to emulate the grandeur of the city as is viewed by Wordsworth, or with how Wordsworth sees the city London. And he exclaims that nothing else on earth can match its beauty. Initially, the notion is that a man-made entity can surpass the beauty of the natural world seems a bit ridiculous, but Wordsworth's use of spectacular visual imagery aims to justify these lines in the coming part of the poem. Dull would he be of soul who could pass by a sight so touching in its majesty. So the poet goes as far as to say that a person able to pass by the view without stopping and admiring its majesty means the city London, would be dull of soul, means that he has no soul if he can't admire the beauty of London. Normal word order in this sentence is inverted, such that the adjective dull precedes the verb and the noun. So this is an anastrophe which stresses the word dull, emphasizing the just how dull such a person's soul would have to be to dislike such a city. Describing the vision or the scenery as touching in its majesty implies a spiritual connection between it and the beholder, and which is illustrating its great impact. This city now doth, like a garment, wear the beauty of the morning, silent, bare. The metaphor here is interestingly describing the city as wearing the morning like a garment. This city now doth means it's wearing like a garment. The dawning of this beautiful attire brings out the beauty in both the city and the morning, and they both complement each other so as to create a sight so touching in its majesty, which is like a woman or a beautiful woman wearing a beautiful dress. Ships, towers, domes, theatres, and temples lie. So the poet gives us list which encaptures or captures the might of the industrial town London, and each act as symbols for the great achievement and ingenuity of mankind in this era. The assembly of these great engineering things, or the things created by in the engineers, all within one portion of the city, illustrate its prominence and the culmination of development and accomplishment that is present over there, or that has been achieved till that date. Open unto the fields and to the sky, all bright and glittering in the smokeless air. So these two lines describe a harmonizing effect between the natural and the man-made world, with the buildings in the city that are glittering in the sunlight, means both things are juxtaposed. From Wordsworth's perspective or point of view, each entity is complementary, uniting to produce this dazzling optical image which counteracts the traditional perception that the development of mankind tarnishes the beauty of the natural world. Never did sun more beautifully steep in his first splendor valley, rock, or hill. So these two lines mark the beginning of the sestet, that is the second part of the poem, the 6 lines of the poems, which offer a resolution by elaborating or elucidating the personal impact felt by Wordsworth upon observing such a sight that is so touching, that is in its majesty. Here the sun is proclaimed to have never appeared so magnificent, even when shining on the natural phenomena of valleys, rocks, or hills. That means that he says that the sun doesn't look so beautiful just in the accompaniment of the nature, but here too, in this city, the sun is glorifying or glittering. The personification of the sun, designed by Wordsworth to convey its true power and greatness, for which an indefinite pronoun like it does not suffice over here. Never saw I, never felt a calm so deep. So this line acts as the revelation where the reader learns the true extent of the emotional impact that this view has on the poet. That is Wordsworth, who exclaims that he has never felt a calm so deep. This hyperbole of this line makes it seem like the view has an almost hypnotic effect on him. Perhaps Wordsworth strongly romanticizes the city in spite of its imperfections, because his trance-like state renders him oblivious to the later, that is, the plethora of imperfections that there you can observe in the city. But he is not able to, he is just romanticizing, and the impact on him is great, and he feels a calm feeling of calmness. That is, he is in a way hypnotized or by the influence the city makes on him. The river glideth at his own sweet will. Here he is also personifying the river, that is the Thames, which flows through London, and the imagery of it gliding at its own free will. This connotes an elegance and sophistication to the river. The elegance of its flow is satisfying, mirrored with the elegance of the rhythm which the use of iambic pentameter gives it to it. as though the river itself flows at this very rhythm. Dear God, the very houses seem asleep, and all that mighty heart is lying still. In the final two lines of the poem, Wordsworth now reiterates the tranquility of the environment on this fine summer morning, exclaiming that the mighty heart, that is, of the city, is lying still. This phrase, Dear God, emphasizes just how powerful an impact this view is having on him. Linking back to the third line that we have read, the view itself is reaching out and touching his soul, resulting in a spiritual impact that it almost feels divine or religious, prompting him to call out to God. So, in a way, this poem is a tribute by Wordsworth to the city life. Though Wordsworth is a romantic poet and he always talks about nature, but here he romanticizes the city and elaborates that how this city, the glorious view of the city, has given a calmness to him. Thank you.